The Liberal government is facing yet another damning assessment of its efforts to counter foreign interference. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tapped a special committee of parliamentarians in 2023 to review foreign interference attempts in the last two federal elections. The committee's report was made public today, and it says the government wasn't seized with the gravity of the threat. The National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians concluded in part the slow response to a known threat was a serious failure and one from which Canada may feel consequences for years to come. The implications of this inaction include the undermining of the democratic rights and fundamental freedoms of Canadians, the integrity and credibility of Canada's parliamentary process, and public trust in the policy decisions made by the government. Here to respond is Dominic LeBlanc. He's Minister of Public Safety, Democratic Institutions and Intergovernmental Affairs. Hello, Minister.
Hi, Catherine. Good evening.
Good evening. Now, this report says that your government's slow response to the threat of foreign interference was a serious failure. And as we just heard, Canadians may feel the consequences of that failure for years to come. What do you say to Canadians about that?
I say to Canadians what we've said since forming the government, Catherine, in 2015, that the threat of foreign interference is real. It's not unique to our democracy. I have those conversations with my counterparts in other Five Eyes countries, for example. Our government was the first Canadian government to put in place measures to counter, to detect and disrupt foreign interference. Mr. Poilievre was Minister of Democratic Institutions in 2013 when CSIS identified publicly the growing risk of foreign interference in the electoral process. The Conservatives did nothing. So we've put in place a number of measures. We've strengthened them, evolved them. There's legislation, which I'm optimistic will be adopted, I hope, by the House of Commons soon, to strengthen Canada's ability to combat foreign interference. We've continually evolved and improved and adjusted the measures based on the advice of people that have examined this in a thoughtful way, and this report will be absolutely part of that exercise as well.
Well, Minister, the report doesn't say that you did nothing. It says that you didn't do enough. The committee specifically says that your government recognized the 2018 reforms to counter foreign intelligence were insufficient, but it still took your government 4 years and two federal elections to develop and approve a new strategy. This delay, according to the committee, NSICOP, did not, quote, demonstrate a sense of urgency commensurate with the gravity of the threat. Did your government drop the ball here?
No, and in fact, that's one of the technical things with which we disagree with this particular committee report.
Seems more than technical, government Minister. It seems like quite a large issue.
No, but they asserted, for example, that in 2018, the Protecting Democracy Unit in the Privy Council office wasn't up and running. It was something that my colleague Karina Gould had put in place. So we had in 2018 put in place a series of measures that were first of a kind in terms of detecting and disrupting, briefing other political parties, security cleared representatives could have access to all of the intelligence information, the context of the election. A senior panel of public servants was empowered to tell Canadians about potential threats to foreign interference during the election period. All of those measures were in place in 2019, and we strengthened them again in 2021 based on expert reports and expert reviews. And that's exactly what we're going to continue to do. And Catherine, the HUG Commission, the Judicial Inquiry, Public Inquiry into Foreign Interference, will give us at the end of this year another report with recommendations. So we think that this Committee of Parliamentarians, the National Security Review Agency, and of course Justice Hug's report will give us another opportunity to strengthen and evolve the measures as the threat continues to evolve.
Well, so help me understand here, Minister. I mean, it was your government that asked NSICOP to take a look at these issues, and it seems like you're saying, both in this interview and what I heard you saying earlier in the foyer of the House of Commons, is like, hey, we're doing a great job. I mean, should you not be, you've asked them to do this work, and you seem to be pushing back against their conclusions.
Not at all. The statement I issued this afternoon is very clear that we thank them for the report. We asked them to do this work. We accept that they've made a lot of thoughtful recommendations. There are a couple of areas which we respectfully identified as where we may disagree with this particular committee report. One of them is intelligence information does not equal evidence. They don't become facts. The director of CSIS said that intelligence information are like pieces of a puzzle. You need to get enough pieces of the puzzle before you can see the whole picture.
Are you suggesting the parliamentarians don't understand that? The parliamentarians who make up this special committee tasked with looking at security issues don't understand that point?
Not at all. We think they've done a lot of good work for a number of years. And you're right, our government, in fact, set up that committee when we formed the government. The previous Conservatives didn't have parliamentarians from all political parties and senators overseeing some of the work of our intelligence community. So we think that this is absolutely a very important part of our government's work to strengthen and evolve the measures as the threats continue to evolve. So it's part of a continuum of work that we've done, and we'll be studying very carefully their recommendations, and we think there's a lot of merit in the 3 reports coming within the next few months so the government can work with Parliament to strengthen these measures.
I want to ask you about one specific section of the report that has to do with the behavior of parliamentarians, and it really is extraordinary here. They list some parliamentarians who are semi-witting or witting participants in the efforts of foreign states, and I hope you'll bear with me now. I am going to read a chunk of this because it is so extraordinary. Examples that the committee is aware of. These are MPs. Parliamentarians, so senators perhaps as well, communicating frequently with foreign missions before or during a political campaign to obtain support from community groups or businesses which the diplomatic missions promise to quietly mobilize in a candidate's failure, accepting knowingly or through willful blindness funds or benefits, providing foreign diplomatic officials with privileged information on the work of opinions of fellow parliamentarians, responding to requests or direction from foreign officials to improperly influence parliamentary colleagues to the advantage of a foreign state. That's not the whole list, Minister. I mean, it's incredible to see all of this laid out. Do you have a serious problem with the behavior of some of the people in Parliament right now?
Well, we've had a long-standing concern, Catherine, that this is exactly the kind of efforts that some hostile state powers seek to undertake in Canada. We think that parliamentarians have an obligation to understand the nature and the threat of foreign interference and to not be witting or unwitting participants in these kind of activities. That's why our government has last year alone conducted over 300 briefings of public officials, including elected members of Parliament from all parties, to precisely understand how they need to better defend themselves.
But a lot of this is things that they were aware of, Minister, so I suppose a briefing isn't going to stop it. I mean, it's pretty alarming.
Well, Catherine, and I'm not in a position to speak to what individual parliamentarians, perhaps, as you noted, from different political parties or senators may have done. I'm not going to address specific allegations of individuals' behavior.
But do you refute that this kind of thing is happening, Minister?
I worry that all parliamentarians need to understand the nature of the threat of foreign interference. That's why I've directed officials at CSIS and other intelligence services precisely to talk to parliamentarians about this risk. We think it's important that people understand this particular risk, but I'm not able to police the calendar of some MP or senator who decides to have a meeting with a foreign diplomat. They can be accountable for their own behavior. My job is to make sure that the security services in a transparent way are informing them of the risk.
So, Minister, no one, of course, is asking you to police individual calendars. What the committee says is that some of the activity here, quote, may be illegal, but they're unlikely to lead to criminal charges owing to Canada's failure to address the long-standing issue of protecting classified information and methods in the judicial process. Regardless, all behaviors are deeply unethical. What are you going to do about that?
Catherine, obviously the business of criminal charges, that the RCMP decide these issues on their own. I'm not in a position to offer the RCMP advice on who and how they will investigate and what charges are appropriate. That's entirely within their bailiwick. I have a lot of confidence that the RCMP and the national security agencies take this threat seriously and are doing important work. And as I say, I want to be careful with respect to specific individuals not commenting on actual cases and leave that to the intelligence services and the appropriate authorities to look at.
It doesn't sound then, Minister, like you can assure Canadians that this kind of thing isn't going to continue.
My earpiece has gone dead.
Oh dear. I'm going to try asking you once again, Minister, and if we've lost you, that's the end of it. But can you offer Canadians assurances we won't see more of this? No, I think we're going to have to end it there. Thank you very much, Dominic LeBlanc, Minister of Public Safety, Democratic Institutions and Intergovernmental Affairs.